Hello everyone and welcome to the World Hepatitis Alliance members webinar. My name is Karine Belandrade, I'm COO, and joining me today are a few colleagues in our office here in London, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Elaine, would you like to start?
Sorry. Hi everyone, I'm Elaine. I'm the Communications and Campaigns Officer.
Hi everybody, my name is Tara Farrell and I'm Head of Communications here at the World Hepatitis Alliance.
Hi all, my name is Bridie Taylor and I'm the Communications Manager here.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Hicks and I'm Project Manager at the Alliance.
Thank you everyone. So thank you for joining us today. What we aim to achieve with this webinar, it's really to bring our strategy document to life, give you all an opportunity to ask any questions you may have directly to the team and learn a little bit more how you could use us to support your activities nationally. So I will start by talking a little bit about our journey together those past 10 years and our recently launched strategy for 2018 to 2020. My colleagues will then present on our program of activities for the year, and this will include Finding the Missing Million, our flagship program, World Hepatitis Day, NOhep projects, and other campaigns we are launching this year. We will also take this opportunity to give you some insight into our work in the area of financing. And finally, Bridie will suggest some ways to strengthen our communications. So, as I mentioned before, there will be plenty of opportunity for you to ask questions, and we would be very grateful if you could do so via the webinar technology. We've received a few via emails, and we will try to take as many as we can as we go. However, we have allocated 10 minutes at the end to take more questions. Lastly, please remember this webinar is being recorded and therefore will be shared with everyone afterwards. All right, so our first 10 years together. So this first slide provides us a snapshot of what we've achieved together those past 10 years. It clearly shows that we haven't just changed the course of history for viral hepatitis, we have put it on the map. We've come a very long way from our first community-led World Hepatitis Day back in 2008, and our efforts together have culminated with 194 governments committing to the elimination of viral hepatitis by 2030. So while we acknowledge that we've achieved a lot in those past 10 years, the reality is that, sorry, I've jumped the gun a little bit here. The reality is that only 9 countries are on track to reach our goal, and they can't do it alone. People living with viral hepatitis must be at the heart of the solution if we are to make the elimination a reality. So this harsh reality led us to take a step back last year and think about how, as a global patient organization, we could best contribute, we could best support countries to reach their targets. And of course, the challenges are many. However, we have identified diagnosis as our next strategic step, an area where we could really make a difference. So why diagnosis, you may ask? The WHO elimination strategy calls for a major increase in diagnosis, with 30% of people infected knowing their status by 2020 and 90% by 2030. Those are very ambitious targets, particularly because at the moment only 11% of people living with the disease are aware. So we have up to 300 million people out there not knowing their status, not being aware that they lived with the disease. So without finding those missing millions and linking them to care, really all other efforts will have only marginal success. So the other thing is, by tackling diagnosis, we will drive prevention, we will drive awareness, raising awareness of the disease and access, ultimately saving millions of lives. So how we are going to do that? Today we have a growing community of 256 members in 87 countries working alongside us. Together we bring the expertise, the experience, and the passion to make elimination a reality. So what we aim to do is to harness the power of the people living with the disease and to achieve our aim. So we've developed a program of activities for the year. And I will invite my colleagues in a minute to take over and tell you more about those. Before I will answer one very pertinent question that just came through. So how can we get involved if we don't focus on diagnosis at a national level? So yes, that's a very good question, and something that we did think about. When Brady will talk about World Hepatitis Day, she will tell you a little bit more about that. But ultimately, we are all working under the banner of Eliminate Hepatitis. So, of course, we would love if as many advocates as possible will focus on diagnosis. But if diagnosis is not really the main issue in your country, you can still work together with us under the banner of Eliminate Hepatitis. But more on that when Brady takes over. So I'm going to pass on the stage to my colleague Jessica, who's going to talk about the Finding the Missing Million program. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks, Karine. So the first phase in our Finding the Missing Millions program is the development of a global white paper. So this white paper is going to set out recommendations for overcoming the barriers to diagnosis. However, we realize before we can get to that point, we need to go back and make sure that we really understand what the barriers to diagnosis are in as many countries as possible. We truly want this to be a global consultation. And so we're sending out a survey globally, and it's going to policymakers, public health professionals, medical health professionals, civil society organizations, and importantly, people living with viral hepatitis. And the survey is going to be asking, what are the barriers in your country and which populations are most affected by them? So in the coming weeks, you're going to be receiving this survey. And it is really important that we hear from you because we want to make sure that the information we're gathering reflects the real situation in your country and that all our future activities are relevant to you. And this is the evidence base we're going to be using to build this program over the next 3 years. And so we're also really asking you to send this out amongst your networks. We want to hear from as many people as possible. So if you can, put it in your newsletter, send it in email, put the survey link on social media, we'd really appreciate your help. So once we've got that evidence, it will be turned into a report, and that report will form the basis of discussions at a 2-day meeting that the Alliance is convening in London with key experts and stakeholders within the diagnosis frame. We're going to look at the barriers and explore how we can overcome these and agree a set of recommendations. And building on what Karine was saying, sort of key to this, we want these recommendations to highlight the power of harnessing the patient voice and really showing that we can put people living with viral hepatitis as central to the response. These recommendations will form the white paper, and that white paper will be launched on World Hepatitis Day this year. And then following this, we'll take those recommendations forward and look at how we can implement them on the ground through advocacy work, but there'll be more on that later in the year. So I'll now pass over to my colleague Tara to give a bit of an update on the campaign around the missing millions.
Tara, sorry, can I ask a question, Jess? We've got a question about the white paper. How can our members use this white paper for their own activities?
Great question. So as I sort of briefly mentioned, the white paper, following the white paper, we're going to be looking at advocacy. And the idea really is that this white paper will be the foundation for a suite of advocacy materials that we're going to be creating that members can use in their own country. And they can use the white paper itself as an advocacy tool to really push forward and demand action and around the recommendations that we'll be creating.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that, Jess. And I think this brings us on really nicely into the campaign, the Finding the Missing Millions campaign. So as Jess mentioned, in phase one, it's really all about gathering that much needed evidence, that global making the case stuff that we need to bring to policymakers and use to raise awareness. And once we have the white paper and the set of global recommendations and data that's been brought together from the consultation, we really want to utilize it the best possible way. And that's why we're going to launch the Finding the Missing Millions campaign. So the advocacy awareness raising campaign will be a World Hepatitis Alliance solely owned campaign, and will span for the duration of our strategy, so from 2018 to 2020, with an objective to raise awareness, influence national testing policies, and encourage people to get screened or become advocates in the journey to find the undiagnosed. So predominantly in the first year anyway, it'll be aimed at our World Hepatitis Alliance members, so yourselves, and people living with viral hepatitis. And it will use the key recommendations out of the white paper to deliver targeted advocacy materials in an effort to drive action at a policy level and drive that much needed awareness. Now, as mentioned, as Jess mentioned, when we see these recommendations and we see the outputs of the consultation, it'll be very important that we work with our members to be able to develop these materials and resources to guide and drive that advocacy, because we're all very much aware that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. The campaign will officially launch on World Hepatitis Day, where supporters will be encouraged to take actions to find the missing millions and link them to care. And Bridie will speak a little bit more about that after. But just a few kind of elements to be aware of the campaign, because you'll see much more of it over the next coming months. It'll be housed on the it will be housed in a microsite which is attached to our website, and it will include a series of materials and resources and ways that you can get involved. Most importantly, we're really hoping that we can leverage the great best practices across the world, highlight really important initiatives that our members are implementing on the ground to find these missing millions, and different ways that we as a community can really strengthen efforts to find the undiagnosed and link them to care. We'll also be launching a bespoke online risk assessment that we also very much encourage you to use in your World Hepatitis Day activities and beyond, and which we hope will drive people back to our website and get them to sign up and take action and to use these materials and resources. And as Jess mentioned also, we will also be sharing a suite of advocacy tools after the launch, after the World Hepatitis Day launch. So without further ado, I'll turn over to Bridie, who will talk a little bit more about the actual launch on World Hepatitis Day and how you can support the campaign further. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Tara. And it's really exciting to be here to provide an update around World Hepatitis Day. I know that many of you will have started thinking about your activities already, and we're hoping that the new information we're about to share will really help guide your plans. So as Tara says, the Finding the Missing Millions campaign will be a 3-year campaign, but World Hepatitis Day really offers us that opportunity to make as big a splash as possible with the campaign and really encourage momentum from the very start. So as we've said, the launch will be on World Hepatitis Day, and the theme overall for World Hepatitis Day this year will be Eliminate Hepatitis. As Karine mentioned earlier, everything we are doing as a community is all leading up towards the elimination of viral hepatitis by 2030, and diagnosis is just one of the big steps to that. So as we've mentioned, if diagnosis isn't necessarily your key priority at the moment, you can still very much be part of World Hepatitis Day. But of course, we encourage everyone to help make as much noise as possible around the diagnosis issue. The campaign this year will be brought to life once again with a whole suite of materials with posters, social media graphics, toolkits, and lots of tips about how you can bring the Finding the Missing Millions campaign to your country. But this year, we're also taking a much more targeted approach with the materials that we'll provide. We know quite often what we produce for World Hepatitis Day, being very global, is not necessarily the most appropriate for your activities. We, of course, always make sure that things are customizable, and this will continue to be a large part of the campaign. But we are also looking at much more, looking at the at-risk groups, so really considering the groups that we must reach to achieve elimination. These materials will be available towards the end of March, so do keep an eye out from emails from us and the World Hepatitis Day website, where you'll be able to find all of these materials from the end of March to start planning your activities. We also will have the white paper ready for World Hepatitis Day, and this is an opportunity for us to really leverage that content. So often, many of us don't necessarily have the information to really reach out to media, or perhaps lots of information to run policy events. This year, we really encourage you to use that white paper and its recommendations to help with your activities on World Hepatitis Day. We will be providing lots of materials to help you do so, and these will be available in June. So again, that's another important date to keep in mind for the information we can help you to make the biggest splash on World Hepatitis Day. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Bridie. I'd like to take a couple of questions here. Bridie, since you are on World Hepatitis Day, our colleagues in Grupo Temiso in Brazil are testing people with diabetes, and they're noticing that the prevalence within this group is much higher than the general population, and studies have confirmed that. So the question is, how can we, if we could discuss the possibility of including people with diabetes in population at risk to be tested?
Thank you for the question. I think that's a really important point, and I think it's really timely to hear other organisations are also looking at how we can reach those at-risk groups. We, as I say, will be sort of thinking about what the targets are across the world, but also will be making all materials customizable. Messaging can be changed, images can be changed. So we very much encourage people to look at what are the at-risk groups in their countries, adapt the campaign, and to ensure that actually we're all doing what we can to reach those at-risk groups and the hardest to reach ones.
And just to add into that as well, it might be also worthwhile linking in with other organisations who are doing activities with at-risk populations. So if, for example, you want to target people living with diabetes, perhaps doing a combined Missing Millions campaign with them could be a good way to strengthen partnerships and create maximum impact.
Thank you. A couple more, because we've got quite a few questions coming through. About the white paper, who is the white paper targeting, and how will it be distributed?
Great question. So the white paper is going to be really targeting 3 key audiences, so policymakers, medical professionals, and civil society. And we'll be making it available for civil society as an advocacy tool on WHD. It'll be disseminated on the microsite that Tara mentioned. And we will try and get some key messaging to members ahead of WHD as well.
Great, thank you. Just Tara, lastly. So how is NOhep different to the Finding the Missing Million campaign?
Oh, that's a good question, and I'm glad NOhep is at the top of everybody's mind still. NOhep, we initiated it in 2016, so that it would become a global movement. That would be for everybody all over the world to take this kind of big action towards elimination of viral hepatitis, and create this community to do so. the Finding the Missing Millions campaign is a campaign, and it's focusing on a very specific issue, diagnosis, and the idea being that it's advocacy and awareness raising rather than building a global movement. The mechanisms will be largely the same, where we, the World Hepatitis Alliance, will provide resources and materials and share best practice, but it's not supposed to become the red ribbon like it is in HIV/AIDS. But thank you for your question. That's a very good question.
Thank you. So, Jessica, you want to take over?
Great, thank you. So I'm going to speak a little bit about some of the other projects that we are undertaking in the coming year. If I can get these slides moving. So the first of these is around financing for hepatitis. So we've undertaken a pilot project in Colombia and Nigeria that looks at financing for hepatitis C. Now, the reason for those two countries and the focus on hepatitis C was because of government willingness, but it is our hope to expand this project and move into other countries and also do the same work in hepatitis B. So the first phase of this project is working with our members in the country, with key stakeholders within the country, external stakeholders such as CDA, the Center for Disease Analysis in the US, and the Clinton Health Access Initiative, and the governments in the country to look at costing and financing a hepatitis C program. So this involved 4 key steps. Costing the program, so that includes making sure that we have costs for all areas of the program and appropriate targets are set. Creating the investment case, so looking at both cost effectiveness analysis and cost benefit analysis to build the business case for investing in hepatitis C. Then looking at budgeting, and this is looking at conservative, aggressive, and moderate budgets and seeing what decisions can be made and what can be covered for the coming year. And then finally, for countries where there's gaps or who maybe they haven't yet started financing the hepatitis C program, looking at catalytic financing strategies that will help them get started. So this phase of the project is going to finish in the first quarter of this year, and then we'll really move our attention into phase 2, which is around advocating for financing. And we're really partnering with our members in both countries to build advocacy campaigns for financing for hepatitis C within those countries and trying to see some real impact on the ground with this project. So alongside this project, to complement this, we have launched the National Viral Hepatitis Program Financing Strategy Template. Now, this is a website that we've created that actually goes through step by step each of those 4 steps that I mentioned that we're doing in those countries, with practical examples of how it's been done elsewhere, and sort of it really sets it out with case studies. And it also touches on advocacy, because we just think that advocacy is so important, and civil society have a real role to play working with ministries of health to move this forward. And so I would encourage you to look at this. It's a guide for countries, but it's also an advocacy tool for civil society. And we're going to be putting the case studies from Colombia and Nigeria on here as well. So there's a point of reference there. And as we go into more countries, we'll continue to build out those case studies. So as I said, this is a really an advocacy tool for civil society alongside being a guide for governments. And it's something you can take to them to show them that actually financing doesn't need to be a barrier to elimination. If you take a strategic approach, it can be overcome. And the second project I'd like to talk.
Thank you, Tara. I've got to yes, I'd like to ask you a question about the financing that's just come through. So we are being asked whether this analysis that you are conducting in those countries, will it clearly show to policymakers that it is worth investing in hepatitis in terms of cost savings and cost efficiency?
Yes. Yeah, so where we're at now, the preliminary findings have definitely shown that. And once we we need to work with the governments in the country to get approval to put those findings on the website. But once we have that, we'll put that up there and also make it readily known that it's available, so you can take a look at that. We're also going to be building out the cost effectiveness side of the website and linking to studies that have shown just how cost effective treatment can be. So again, that's another great resource if you're speaking to your governments, to show them that other countries are doing this and it is cost effective and in some cases cost saving. I hope that answered the question. So I will move on to the next project, which I'm very excited about. It's the NOhep Village at the Global Hepatitis Summit, which is brought to you by us. So we were asked by the organisers of the Global Hepatitis Summit to create a civil society space in their exhibition hall. And so we've come up with the NOhep Village. So the NOhep Village is going to be an area that fosters network and collaborative learning between patient groups and the scientific community. And it's a really great opportunity to put the patient voice central at what has previously been a very scientific meeting. And the goal is to really come away having created a greater and better connected community of advocates. And so what will you find at the village? So there's exhibition booths for civil society organizations. And really excitingly, we have a budget for 6 funded booths. So I would really encourage you to go on to the Global Hepatitis Summit website or our own website and look for the NOhep Village. And you can find information about how to apply, more detail about the objectives of the village. So applications are now open. They close on the 2nd of March. So I really do encourage everyone to take a look and apply for a space. Although we only have 6 funded booths, there are a number of self-funded booths available. So there are many opportunities to get involved. And for those that do have a booth there, it's a great opportunity to network with other civil society organizations, sponsors, key opinion leaders, and medical professionals from around the world. And it's also an opportunity to showcase your activities to such a diverse range of people. So at the village, beyond the booths, there's going to be talks, debates, and panel discussions, talks from civil society as well as medical professionals and people working in public health. And there's also going to be a networking area. And really, this is really exciting, very new idea, is a NOhep Village Advocacy Day. So this is when we're going to open up the village on the Saturday to the public. And so again, it's a great opportunity to showcase your activities on a really global stage. So I do hope you will all consider applying for a booth.
Thank you, Jess. So we have a question from our members here. It looks like quite a few of our members have been on the Global Hepatitis Summit site,
great.
and there is some question about the registration fee for the conference itself. So, I mean, could you, for the benefit of our members, clarify our relationship with that event?
No problem. So we were asked by the event organizers to manage the NOhep Village. So unlike the World Hepatitis Summit, we're not actually involved in the organization of the event itself. So if you do have queries around registration fees to attend the event, to attend the conference, I would suggest you go directly to the organizers of the Global Hepatitis Summit, because unfortunately we're not involved in that area, but you'll find their contact details on the website, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help. But if you do have any questions relating to costs around the exhibition area, as I said, we've got 6 funded booths. We also have self-funded booths. We're working on the costs for those now. But if you do have any questions, please get in touch with us directly. We'd be more than happy to speak with you about it. Great, so I will hand over now to Elaine.
Right, hi. Is my mic on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So Great. So I'm here today just to talk to you a little bit more detail about NOhep. So first of all, I'll just take you through some of the key activities that we did in 2017. So we ended the year on a massive high with over 2,000 supporters in over 120 countries. And for a movement that's still very much in its infancy, that is a huge achievement. And we've grown from strength to strength online, especially. We've seen 80,000 actions, and we obviously launched our Visionaries program, which brings together medical professionals and governments and civil society groups. And we launched that in Europe and America with the medical professionals. And we've already signed up over 250 of those. And then, of course, there was the World Hepatitis Summit, where we had representatives from 6 different governments on stage and committed to the cause. And those governments, of course, were Bangladesh, Brazil, Egypt, the Gambia, Georgia, and Mongolia. So moving ahead to 2018 and what we're going to be getting up to. So as I've said, NOhep having a presence at all of those national and regional events last year was really key to us spreading awareness of the movement among our key stakeholders. So in 2018, our aim is really to build upon that success and expand the Visionaries program further. So we're very excited to announce that in March we will be at a Basel, where we will launch the Visionaries program for medical professionals there, and then attending the first COLDA in September in Nigeria, which is the conference on liver disease in Africa. And then we will also be publishing a couple of NOhep guides, which aims to, one for medical professionals, which aims to kind of demonstrate to medical professionals how they can get involved with NOhep and really demonstrate to them as well what their role in achieving elimination is exactly. The other one is going to be for our activist visionaries, which I think will definitely apply to you guys. And the guide for activists will kind of be surrounding around how to build a movement in your country. So just moving on now then, very quickly, what this all means for you. So just having problems with my slides, sorry. So one of our key projects in 2018 will be around growing the online NOhep community. You know, we really need your help to do this. NOhep is driven by its community, and without people, there just simply wouldn't be a movement. So kind of just urging you all really to embrace NOhep in your work, you know, use the logo, get involved on the hashtag online, spread the message and talk to each other, you know, share best practices and share your successes and your experiences, and just really kind of help us get our message out there. I mean, really, I would encourage you all to look up the NOhep Visionaries program for activists, which is on our website, and sign up to that if you haven't already. I know most of you probably already have signed up to NOhep and are receiving the monthly NOhep news, which of course showcases all of the work being done by our supporters all around the world. And really, the Visionaries program is an expansion of that. Obviously, with the toolkit that we'll be developing, we'll show you examples of best practices that are being done around the world, and show you how you can replicate that and how you can build on that success. Because the movement is all about giving you a box to stand on, amplifying your advocacy, giving you a global voice. And ultimately, our goal is elimination, and NOhep is there to kind of help with that. So activists obviously are at the heart of everything that we do, and civil society and advocacy groups really are crucial for this fight. And so we need you to get on board, I guess, is my main message. So now I'm going to pass over to Bridie, I think, who's going to talk a bit more about some of our other campaigns.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Elaine. And I am indeed here to talk about another one of our campaigns that we're actually launching today. So everyone attending this webinar right now are the first people to see any of the new posters for this campaign and to hear what it's all about. I will then also talk about how we can just strengthen our relationships and ensure that we're working together in the best way possible. So as I say, we have a really exciting new campaign that we're launching today, and this is all around stigma. For all of us working in the field, we know that stigma really is a huge hindrance to the people living with viral hepatitis. We recently ran a survey. Many of you submitted answers to this survey, so thank you for that. And our survey found that stigma has not only affects sort of an individual's ability to access diagnosis, to access treatment and care, but also has huge implications on relationships that they have with other people, on the way they on their work, on education prospects. So this had implications on almost every aspect of people's lives. Here are just some of the figures that the report found, and it confirmed that we know that stigma exists in almost every country in the world. So after having found these statistics, we really wanted to make sure the community came together to do something about this. We have an opportunity to challenge the misconceptions that cause stigma and discrimination, and become empowered enough to stand up to this and say that we've had enough. So ahead of Zero Discrimination Day, which is the 1st of March, we're launching the Stigma Stops campaign. So this is a year-long awareness raising campaign that will run from Zero Discrimination Day on the 1st of March and aims to highlight the impact that we've all felt from stigma and dispel those myths and really encourage the people that are impacted to speak out. So there are a number of ways to get involved. As you'll see, we've got a whole suite of materials, posters, social media graphics. Please do share these on social media, share them if you're holding any events, put them up as use them as leaflets, use them for whatever you do to raise awareness about stigma. We also will be encouraging people to participate on social media. So we're encouraging you to highlight just the real impact and how widespread stigma is by showing a message on what you felt on the palm of your hand. So replicating the posters. So by writing on the hashtag Stigma Stops and your message and sharing on social media, you'll be sort of raising awareness of this issue, but we will also be using these photos and videos to make a video that is a call to end stigma. So please do, over the next few weeks, share your messages with us on social media. Don't forget to use the hashtag Stigma Stops, and everything we've received by the 1st of March will form this powerful video that we will launch as a call to end stigma. And finally, we are really only going to tackle stigma if we ensure that everyone speaks out about their experiences. Many of you will be aware that we have a platform on our website called the Wall of Stories. This is your opportunity to share the real impact that viral hepatitis has had on your life. Please do take some time to share your experiences, because this will help us raise awareness, to dispel those myths and educate people to end stigma. And as I say, there are a number of ways that we can help to improve the way we're all working together. People living with viral hepatitis have a really unique experience, and we have the power and a really important role in elimination. So we need to make sure that our efforts don't go unnoticed. We need to utilise every single opportunity we've got. So the campaign that I've just mentioned is one of those opportunities, but we also here at the World Hepatitis Alliance try to offer many others. One of these is, of course, the webinars. We host a number of webinars throughout the year, and these really are for you. We, in the past, have featured webinars on diagnosis issues. We have used them to raise awareness about social media usage, but please do let us know what you'd like us to include, what's working for you, what's not working for webinars, because we conduct these for you and they will be better if we know what's going to work for you. As I mentioned, we also have our Wall of Stories, and telling the real stories of hepatitis is really important to our mission. So please do also get involved in that. And then finally, we have many different channels of communication where you have an opportunity to profile your activities. We want to ensure that our members get the international visibility that we can provide and that your activities deserve. So we have our social media channels. If you have anything you'd wish to promote, please do get in touch and we can share that through our channels. We also have our monthly magazine, Hep Voice. This gives you lots of opportunity to highlight your activities. And again, please do be reading the magazine, sharing it with your colleagues, and crucially, telling us if there's anything you'd like to include. And then there are many other things that we also do, from reporting to these webinars, to even our media outreach, where we have opportunities to profile your voice. So if there's anything you wish to be part of, always get in contact with us.
Thank you, Bridie. I have a question that ties up nicely with the wall of story, I think. So our members in San Francisco are asking, so basically the hardest to reach group in San Francisco is IVDU and the homeless population. Will there be a targeted outreach campaign to such populations?
Thanks for the question. Whilst we won't have a specific campaign aimed at these, what we plan to do with the World Hepatitis Day campaign and then the ongoing Finding the Missing Millions campaign is to ensure that we have much more tailored and targeted approaches to reach groups. So we certainly will be considering these groups in the materials that we produce, in the toolkits that we produce, and all the information that we share. So there won't be anything specific, but it's very much something that's at the forefront of our mind as we're developing materials for this year.
Thank you, Bridie. So that wasn't the question linking to the wall of story, but the next one is, so again in San Francisco, they found the argument for cost effectiveness and diagnosis. And what they're asking is if what they find the most effective is describing or profiling how being cured changed people's life. And they're asking whether there will be an emphasis on the lives of those who have been treated and cured.
I think that's a really important point, and certainly I think for many the fact that viral hepatitis does have a solution, that it does have a cure, and for hepatitis B now we have treatment that can suppress, if not cure, the virus. I think this story of hope is actually certainly really useful in our activities, and I encourage, we have many stories on the wall of stories at the moment where people do talk about life after cure, and do sort of talk about the new beginnings that they have, and this being sort of really a good way to get people on board and I think encourage those policy discussions. And again, I think I could only encourage anyone that has similar experiences to please do get in touch with us to share their story on the wall of stories.
And further to that, on the Finding the Missing Millions microsite, as I mentioned before, there'll be it's a platform to share, best practice and case studies and experience from across the world. But we're also very much encourage people who want to come forward and talk about how, being diagnosed, then following up with getting treatment, and how cure and being cured has changed their life and impacted it positively. How, if they want to author blogs or stories for that microsite, we really encourage it. And as always with our campaigns here at the World Hepatitis Alliance, people come front and center, and our whole mission now to harness the power of people living with viral hepatitis is very key to us, and we hope will come across in all our communications and our projects and programs.
Thank you. And also, Bridie, you will be featuring some stories in the Hep Voice from January, from the next edition, won't you?
Absolutely. So in the magazine, we are also profiling those stories. So not only does it sit very at the center of our website, but we also use it throughout our other communications. And I think, as Tara mentions, as come out time and time again in this webinar, we really want to make sure that the voice of people that have experienced this disease is at the center of what we do.
Thank you, Bridie. So we have a very excited members in Pakistan who will be submitting their application for funded booth at the NOhep village very soon. Thank you. That's very nice to hear. This is a question for Tara. So in terms of the Finding the Missing Million campaign, our colleagues in Nigeria are asking that their situation is the government is basically telling them that they have no business testing people. So in the light of this situation, how can they participate? What can they do?
Well, that's very interesting. And what we're hoping to achieve with the white paper in phase 1 is that we're hoping that we'll get a real broad picture of all the different barriers to diagnosis and pull them all together and get these experts to make key recommendations on how to overcome them. But in terms of the Finding the Missing Millions campaign, what we are hoping to do is create a groundswell of people, of advocates to come forward and press and not take no for an answer. And if, for example, a government says, well, we're not interested in diagnosing, we as advocates, as our community, as the World Hepatitis Alliance, should say that that's not good enough and use and utilize the advocacy materials we'll provide and the white paper evidence to go and present a case to say, actually, you will not reach the WHO's global goals by 2030, of which you committed to in 2016, without taking action to find the missing millions. So we will put together a program of materials to support you, which will be very much involved about improving discussions with your policymakers, driving public engagement, and raising awareness of this issue.
Thank you, Tara. Jess, can an organization make an application for a booth if they are not members of WHA?
Absolutely. Yes, of course. We will consider all applications. It does say on the application form that priority for funded booths. In terms of how we allocate them, we are looking to give one per WHO region, and priority will be given to WHA members. But that's not to say that it's out of the question that a non-member would get a funded place, and they would certainly be more than welcome to take a self-funded booth in the village. So please do submit an application.
Thank you, Jess. So next we've got a bit of a governance question, so I'm going to take that one. So how can you become a member of the Alliance? Well, you can drop us an email. You can go into the members section of our website and apply straight from our website. In terms of responsibility and governance and guidelines, I mean, we don't have very strict guidelines, but what we would expect from our members is to work together with us and engage in our activities and participate in all the activities, the relevant activities that we are all organizing for you. But we will be very happy to pick up that conversation offline and to give you more details on the membership. But to answer the fee question, there is no membership fee at present, and we are not planning on introducing a membership fee in a very near future. So we'd love to hear from you offline outside this webinar. Thank you. Elaine, how can we sign up to be a NOhep visionary?
That's a great question. If you go on to the NOhep website, which is nohep.org, there's a whole section on there for the Visionaries program. And if you go on there, you can see all of the different sections and apply at the bottom of that page. So it's quite simple.
Great, thank you. And so the list of the 9 countries that are on track to achieve elimination by 2030. I'm not sure if we've got any members of those countries on this webinar, but they are Australia, Brazil, Egypt, Georgia, Germany, Iceland, Japan, the Netherlands, and Qatar. So if we've got any members from those countries on the webinar, well done. You are on the right track. Jess, about the survey, our members are wondering what stakeholders you will be serving.
Sure. So we are trying to really make sure that we get a really wide breadth of respondents. So we're going to be sending it out to policymakers, people working in public health, medical professionals, civil society, and people living with viral hepatitis. But if you think there's a group we're missing, and you've got those networks, please send it out or get in touch with me directly and let me know, because we are really keen to make sure that we capture as many different viewpoints as possible, because we really do want this to be as robust as possible. And as I said, we're using this evidence to base our programs for the next 3 years. So it's really important to us that we are capturing all the viewpoints from as many different stakeholders as possible.
Thank you, Jess. Our colleagues from Uruguay are raising a concern more than a question about their difficulties in engaging with health ministry to test and treat people. They've used some of the materials we've offered, but they are not. They don't seem to get through. Tara, would you like to talk a little bit about the advocacy side of the Finding the Missing Million campaign?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, different countries will have different issues, and I'm sure this is a similar issue in a lot of countries, in getting the buy-in from government. We're all very well aware that viral hepatitis is a politically neglected disease compared to other infectious diseases, and that's why it's always harder to get the attention of decreasing budgets. But we at the World Hepatitis Alliance take a multi-pronged approach to support this activity. So you heard earlier on from Jess about our financing projects as a way to initiate new conversations. We also have materials that you may not have seen before, but we just launched them at the summit on our website about how to make the case for viral hepatitis. A little bit which links to finance and the cost effectiveness and the cost argument, but also broadens it out to encourage policymakers to take note and to take action. But it also could just come down to, tried and tested methods of advocacy, which means creating a wider voice. So, for example, the media is a key way to get policymakers' attentions, especially in influential outlets. So be it, top tier newspapers that your policymakers reading, or specific television programs or radio, or even key ambassadors, to get them to write and talk about issues and demand and continue to keep calling on policymakers to take action in this field. And then in terms of the actual Finding the Missing Millions campaign, as I keep mentioning, this campaign is going to be based on evidence, and it's based on a global consultation and recommendations of a panel of experts that will hopefully help you make a more targeted case to your policymaker and hopefully open those doors. And as I mentioned, we will be supplying the other, tools and, letters, templates and campaign templates and posters to create that wider buzz. But it's all about how you take the evidence and help and make it targeted for your country. But if you have any other questions or would like any other tips on how to increase these discussions or support these discussions, drop me a line, drop the team here a line, because we have had lots of experiences in advocacy in different countries. I hope
Thank you, Tara. Another question for you. Will you and how involve the scientific community in the Finding the Missing Million campaign?
Yeah, so we're very much aware that the scientific community, healthcare professionals, have a key role in overcoming barriers to diagnosis, and we're very encouraged to include that within our activities. So once we have finished the global consultation, we'll be able to really identify where the barriers are globally in countries, and how we as a patient organization can help overcome those. But I think we're already taking steps as an organization to involve the scientific community, healthcare professionals, be it through the Global Hepatitis Summit at the NOhep Village, where the theme is fostering relationships between advocacy organizations and healthcare professionals, to the NOhep Visionaries program for medical professionals, where we're building capacity of healthcare professionals around the public health goals and how they can help support us to achieve the 2030 targets.
Thank you, Tara. So, we are being asked whether the Alliance has a patient assistance program and whether what can NGO do to partner with us to initiate a patient assistance program. So we do not run a patient assistance program. However, quite a few of our members do. And I guess as our role in connecting people, connecting members around the world, you could email us and we'll be in the position to put you in contact with people that are doing that very well elsewhere. I'm not too sure where you are from, Birat, but please do email our any address you have, our admin address or contact address, and we will get back to you with some members that we know are doing that very well. That's a great initiative. So we are being asked when we are going to get a globally recognized flag for our movement. So Tara, that's one for you.
Well, for NOhep movement, if you're talking about that, we have lots of different branding and a flag. Well, let's put that on the to-do list. We've got pins and wristbands. And in terms of the Finding the Missing Millions campaigns, well, watch this space because we've got lots of exciting new brand content visuals coming out over the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll have something exciting that you can get behind.
Great, thank you, Tara. On the NOhep merchandise, actually, will we send more NOhep merchandise?
Elaine, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So we unfortunately are not in a position at the moment to be sending merchandise out to areas and to supporters, just because a lot of the times they do get stuck at customs and don't end up getting to where they need to go. But if you go on to the website again, nohep.org, we do have a special section for resources there. Now there's a whole bunch of stuff there. You can download infographics and social media graphics, but also there are templates there for t-shirts, for the wristbands, for the pins, and you can take those along to a supplier or someone who can produce those for you in country and get those made yourselves. I know it's not always the easiest option, but it's the only one that we have at the moment. So yeah, I would point you in that direction. Hope that answers the question.
Great. I'm sure it does. Thank you, Helen. So I think we are getting to our last question for you, Jess, about your financing work. Are you planning, or will you replicate the financing project in other countries?
That's definitely our plan. So at this stage, we want to finish phase 1, start work on phase 2 of the current sort of pilot project. And once we've seen some action there, we're definitely going to explore going into further countries and replicating this again. And as I mentioned, we're trying to look as well at incorporating hepatitis B, so making it Hep C or Hep B or both, depending on what the country requires.
Thank you, Jess. I think we're running out of time for questions, so thank you very much for all your questions, for being so engaged with us today. We thank you also for the great feedback. I'm not going to give all the great feedback going through the questions, but thank you for all your positive encouragement for this webinar. We look forward to working with you throughout 2018 and through 2020 and through 2030 and make the elimination a reality. Thank you to my colleagues here for great presentations. And well, I guess we'll speak to you soon. Thank you all.